Coming up this week on the Digital Lifestyle Show 888, Gary and Richard are here, and we've got lots to talk about. The big event from Microsoft today, big announcement today as we record on Tuesday evening, is the AI integration into Bing. We'll be talking about that, what it means. There's actually a new version of Edge as well, with new UI that we can look at. We'll be talking about cloud-hosted services. We'll be talking updating drum machine firmware so you can get new sound. It's actually pretty fun. We'll be talking about new builds of Windows 11 and lots more. So let's get straight to Gary and Richard. Richard, good evening.
Good evening.
Welcome back to the show. Hopefully Gary will be joining us shortly as well. Have you used AI to establish what we're going to talk about tonight?
I have not, no, but maybe we should. But maybe in the future we will. I mean, we could be replaced by just AI. I guess if you, I wonder if you fed in all of your shows that you've done, which is what 800 or so now, I think.
Yeah.
If you fed all those into an AI, I bet it could
Yeah.
produce a pretty good show.
Yeah, that's it. That's what we need to do. And certainly the technologies for everything else is there for rendering stuff. So yeah, I guess it's all coming. And here's Gary just as we say. Good evening.
Good evening.
Live from the studio.
Live from the studio, yes, indeed.
Yeah.
Now I've got some internet.
So you're not at the secret event in Redmond then?
Not at a secret super event in Redmond, no.
Well, welcome to the show, Gary. We just started. So the as we record this on Tuesday night, there was a big Microsoft AI Bing event today. So I don't know whether you've seen that or had time to digest anything on that so far. So, Richard, what was the event about?
I guess it explains why Google had their big panicky blog posting yesterday, which is the 6th of February, about their new AI and the AI thing that they're working on, which they're calling Bard, where you'll be able to have it's yet another experimental conversational AI service, which they posted yesterday. Maybe they had some idea what Microsoft was about to do today, which is obviously they've announced. Really, I guess it's kind of like a refresh of Edge, but most importantly, sort of moving the Chat GPT type AI AI chatbot into the Bing search engine, meaning you'll be able to kind of type in anything you want and have Bing produce results helpfully based on that English language degree, and also perhaps more importantly, or maybe more dangerously, summarize those results as well, which is a bit iffy. I think it's rolling out in Bing in preview form now, I think, isn't it?
Yes.
And it'll be I mean, they're calling it, I think, a co-pilot for the web. And I think anyone who's done coding recently with GitHub is very familiar with the word co-pilot. And it's half of me is obviously very suspicious of how the AI is being used here. But equally, I think if this is going to bring more competition to web searching, and has clearly worried Google enough that they pushed out a blog post the day before, that can only be a good thing.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, for years, Microsoft have really searched to compete well with Google. They've tried lots of different strategies, MSN and various things, and bundling it in with Windows, which I think has helped and made it, it's the default search engine and all that with Windows installs. But this is a different paradigm. That's what they're trying to say, isn't it? That it's a language that they've constructed for search, and it's the first time in 20 years that there's been a new paradigm in web search. And in fact, I've just opened up the Bing page, and it has actually given me the new links. But although I think there you go, it's doing the little chat on the side there. So
yeah, I mean, it's very much a different way of searching. So whereas before you used to putting in some key keywords and looking for, and then looking through page after page of results that come back. This is perhaps more a case of it's going to give you more complete answers. It's going to give you, it's going to understand what you're actually asking for, and give you a, actual useful text as opposed to page after page of links. And I think the chat thing is kind of, you're able to kind of refine the search. So it's a way of making the search a bit more refined and a bit cleverer. And of course, the whole thing runs with the new Edge experience, as they're saying. So you're going to get I think it's obviously chat that we've talked about, where you can kind of refine your search in a kind of chat type paradigm, and then with the Edge sidebar, it'll kind of summarize things. So there's quite a lengthy blog about it all. And again, I mean, we'll see how it goes. I think it's, again, I personally think this is a good thing, because it is. I think search has kind of stagnated in recent years. This is kind of a new way of doing things, and my only concern is obviously how the AI is working. And I think one of the slight concerns many people will have about anything involving AI is how open it is, and how it's creating creating is it's the wrong word to use, how it's producing these outputs, and how it's consolidating information. What rules are running behind the scenes. It's always been a worry about any search engine, where you think, well, how is it prioritizing what's coming up? And now, of course, it's actually taking what's being spat out and giving you an actual summarized answer. So that would be my one concern about this as a concept. But anything that's going to revitalize and bring more competition to Google can only be a good thing, I think.
Yeah, and Gary, from the behind the scenes side of it, it's this is all running with the open chat or the open API, the open AI engine, isn't it?
Open AI, yeah. So it's kind of ChatGPT, although slightly different from what I understand, because of where it's actually getting this data. One thing which does concern me, and I don't know if Richard's got any thoughts on this, is the legal side of it, particularly in the EU. I know German courts have come down quite heavily on lack of credit for information on search engines in the past. I wonder if this is actually going to run into that, because the examples I've seen don't seem to give credit to the sources for the information. I just wondered, with your journalist hat on, whether that would be something you would be concerned about.
For sure. I mean, it's I think with all the AI thing, it's been a concern just going forward, so that you can't be sure where the stuff is where the stuff is coming from, and that's really where I get a little bit concerned about the closed nature of it, because they do in their blog, I'm looking at it now, that they're quite open to say they've done a proprietary way of working with the OpenAI model, so it is proprietary, and that I think will cause a lot of concern. Because people need to know, or want to know, how it is producing things, where it's coming from, and again, from an ethical and legal standpoint, you have to give credit, and you have to acknowledge your sources. So, I should point out this is still a preview, so we'll see how this goes.
Yeah, and I signed up for the access, but the chat mode is only available once Microsoft roll it out. So there's a wait list. So I've put my account on the wait list, but we'll see. So you can get the sort of the preview that I showed you before, but if you want to actually get the chat mode, then chat mode is the thing that is the big difference, isn't it? That's where you can start asking a question, and but it's the attribution, like Gary said, that I'm a bit worried. Well, not worried, but the concern that it's a different model that I'm trying to get my head around. Because, like I said, I've written some, an article fixing a Korg driver, and I've got, maybe there's a 10-step thing for it, but it gets a lot of traffic because it's a commonly searched thing, and I've probably got the only article on it. So, if I don't get the traffic for that anymore, do I see a drop in traffic and therefore revenue?
Why don't you use the new Bing and ask it about
what's going to happen to my
and see what comes out, because that would be a very good test if you know that you would normally get traffic from this, because it's the only source. do a search on Bing, or rather ask Bing about, ask it about Korg and see what comes up. See if it sends the traffic to your page, or if it actually plagiarizes, using the P word there, what you've written and spits it out in a way that you think, well, that's kind of what I wrote, but it's also slightly different. But again, this is a preview. It's early days, and I'm trying to be optimistic about it and saying, well, it's good that I think Google has kind of almost had it its own way for too long, and it's good to see a bit more competition. I mean, in the past, Bing tried to beat Google search at its own game. I don't think that's really worked. I mean, Bing is number 2. So maybe doing something very different like this could be a good thing, or it may very quickly and very suddenly show up the limitations of AI.
Yes, that's the other thing, isn't it? That it could be just a bit of a fad, and although I suspect it'll just get better and better with the results, and it's just we'll just get used to it.
Well, I mean, they claim their implementation is a kind of faster and more accurate and more capable than the existing chat GPT models, but I think that remains to be seen, because there have been some absolute howlers, and the slight concern is if you do a search and it gives you a summary, how accurate that summary is. And they've been very brave by saying, well, here's an example where we're going to summarize some financial reports and things, and that's very easy to get wrong. And there's been some very famous examples where an AI bot has written some financial information and got it wrong. And it's very easy to check.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, I'm looking forward to trying it out, and like I said, a bit of competition is good. I've also got the new UI as well in the in Edge. So this is the Edge Dev, which has got the new look in it. I used to run the Canary all the time, but as things got stabler, I just there wasn't as many things to try out. I just went back to using the standard build, but I put the dev one on this. I quite like this new look, but as you said before we started recording, Richard, it's another tabbed UI paradigm that looks slightly different to all the other tabbed UI paradigms that we've already got.
Yeah. Oh, Microsoft, please be consistent. I mean, please, just consistency interface. So yes, it's yet another way of showing tabs.
Yeah.
And you think, we've only just got tabs in Explorer and things like that. Here we are. It's different again. I mean, yes, it's quite nice. It's very. They've gone fully rounded in places, which is good. I think it's you obviously need to use Windows 11 to get the full effect, I presume.
I don't know, actually. I'll try it on my Windows 10 machine, and I haven't got the to have installed this one, but I have on another machine, so I'll give that a try.
I mean, I know the Canary Edge on Windows 10 is still very squared edged at the moment. Hey, square cornered, but you do have the buttons for tabs. So they are changing the interface paradigm, but again, I mean, I am disappointed that you're going to have yet another tab type interface. I wish Microsoft would be consistent with what they're doing here.
It reminds me of the Windows 95 and Internet Explorer 3, Internet Explorer 4 days, where the UI was changing consistently and the OS was trying to keep up. In fact, you could get I think it was there was a mode, wasn't there, that changed Windows 95 to look more like Internet Explorer 4. I think to remember, but that's in fact the Internet Explorer introduced a lot of the UI changes and things like the hover buttons. And I mean, if you look at Internet Explorer 2, I think was it, or 3, it looked like File Explorer in Windows 95. And then you look at IE4 with the flat buttons and the hover over them and it changes color and all that. That was all introduced at that time, wasn't it? So that was kind of at the forefront of UI development. So maybe Edge is back doing that job again.
It could be. It's as I say, it's.
I like this look on the one actually that I'm looking at now, but like you said, it doesn't really match. It doesn't look like Internet. It doesn't look like File Explorer for whatever.
No, it doesn't. No, I mean, I think there's a danger. It could be quite jarring for users who are trying to use Windows 11 and they find that it just works differently, which kind of is one of the ways it's always been. I was just very hopeful that with Windows 11 they were going to at least make a start, at least be consistent. But it looks like the Edge team has gone its own way, and I presume that the rest of the Windows team will be dragged kicking and screaming behind them.
I mean, I suppose, Gary, you remember those days of trying to keep up with Microsoft's UI changes to make your apps look modern.
Yeah.
At that time, I remember that. Yeah.
Oh, nightmare.
Although a lot of this will be done by theming these days, so possibly we just pick up the themes anyway when we use it. But yeah, that's as you say, Richard, another paradigm. It's just style over substance, I think, is the phrase, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, for me, Edge has got some nice twiddly bits in it, but it's the real big thing here is, I think, kind of the changes to Bing. That seems to me to be the really big news here, which I think, but it's preview. I mean, is there any indication? I've not seen any indication when they expect this to actually go live or be GA.
No, it just says sign up and get it soon.
And are we going to see this moving into Microsoft 365 as well? So you can search, because I mean, there's been various ways. I mean, they were using Cortana to search things in your org for things. Are they looking, say, I need to know how to file an expense claim with HR. How do I do that? I mean, that it would be handy to search in that way. I know Cortana is being used for that. Is that? Do we think this engine might be used in that way as well, or is that perhaps too confidential to suck things into its trade model from your private corporate stuff?
Well, I guess if the model is kept locally, it won't be an issue, as in locally within that corporate's cloud. Yeah, I mean, it is the same as you say as the way Cortana's working, so I can definitely see that happening.
Yeah, it's bound to be. It's like anything when there's something new, and especially at Microsoft, they get something new, they slap it everywhere they possibly can, don't they? So it's going to show up in Teams, and it'll show up in Edge, like you said. It already is showing up in Edge. It's going to be in Word and off Microsoft 365, and everywhere you'll find it.
I guess the slight problem is very dependent on Azure, isn't it? And of course, some corporates are still very leery about putting things into the public cloud. They'd rather have things private or even on-prem. I'm not sure if this would move into Azure, into Azure Stack or Stack HCI, how that would work. So there are some question marks around there. But for the consumer, it being in Bing, great. Just a shame. Poor old Cortana, eh?
Yeah, well, Cortana would be the good voice to this, wasn't it? And that would, with the natural speech engine, with the context-aware speech, that would make naturally fit for that. Maybe we'll see the return of that. Maybe this is something that Amazon will be using Microsoft services for some of its. I can imagine this is a good interface for an Amazon type device to do search, because when you ask for it to do some stuff, it always goes off and if it can't immediately answer through one of its engines, it goes off and searches it for it. And now this would be a good way of doing it.
It could be, although assuming
Amazon have got their own technology for that.
And assuming Amazon are even still in the Echo type business in 2 or 3 years' time, but based on how it's going, it's not going well, it seems.
Yeah. Perhaps another reason why Microsoft were right to pull their devices when they did. Their smart speakers, we were kind of that never arrived, really, did they? But this is a more natural interface for speech than a web search. So, but I'm sure Amazon have got their own technologies probably for this as well. So,
yes,
they want to incorporate that.
I mean, it wouldn't be like Microsoft to get bored of a thing and move on, would it? Really?
Just get this working right and then move on. Yeah.
Would this be a good time to talk about HoloLens 2?
Yeah, that interesting. We talked about that Microsoft have all the mixed reality team has gone from Microsoft, unfortunately, part of the layoffs. But you spot an article saying that Microsoft are still committed to HoloLens and mixed reality.
I mean, obviously, this has been drowned out somewhat by all the excitement over the latest new shiny thing, which is OpenAI and the big integration. But I think that there's been a response by Microsoft regarding all the uncertainty around HoloLens, and they kind of posted a blog about it a couple of days ago. Basically saying that we're committed to HoloLens 2, doesn't mention HoloLens 3 at all, and yeah, it's kind of a very weird one, in that there's no commitment to actually anything happening apart from they are sunsetting Ultraspace VR, and they're hoping to shift everyone off onto Microsoft Mesh, which is their next big thing. But it's kind of like a weird blog post. It doesn't actually seem to say much, apart from the fact they're going to keep on producing it. They don't mention HoloLens 3 at all. There's not really much in the way of future, and
is this one of those? Is this like the equivalent of the chairman expressing his support for the football manager?
Yeah, you know what? That's exactly how it feels. It's like it has a complete support, complete, and of course you're thinking, but you've the team's gone. There's no one. There's nothing happening anymore. You know, the toolkit, the team that made the toolkit isn't working on the toolkit anymore. So exactly what are you doing? They
do say it's open source, so it's out there as part of the community now to develop as an open source cross-platform toolkit.
Which to me kind of smacks of, we don't know what to do with it. Over to you.
Yeah. And they mentioned about this.
Is that cynical? I don't know.
Yeah, it does remind me of those full, the chairman is giving his full support type posts. But yeah, like I said, it doesn't mention future versions. It mentions, like I said, a bit of Microsoft Mesh and some of the stuff they've done with that, this global village that they demonstrated. But these are all tech. That's a tech demo rather than something you can go and use straight away. And there's nothing of substantial. To be honest, I assumed that HoloLens 2 was done, and they just keep updating it until they stopped. Until they said, right, we know no more updates. Like the HoloLens 1, they carried supporting the updates for that for quite some time after they stopped and switched to HoloLens 2. So I thought this would be the same, but they're not going to be, here's a new feature. It's going to be this is the monthly security updates and that kind of thing. And then at some point they'll say the HoloLens will get no more updates after October 2025 or something like that. And that, I mean, I under the hood, I think, well, it's based on HoloLens is based on a platform, a Windows build at some point, isn't it? So whether it's the core, the kernel is still based on a Windows, and I suppose at some point that will stop being updated, and it would normally switch to the next thing. But like I said, there isn't a next thing on there. I did hear that, or I saw a thing on Twitter, a couple of unsubstantiated rumors. But do you remember we talked perhaps a couple of years ago almost about Microsoft having a partnership with Samsung, and Microsoft were developing some software and Samsung was developing hardware for a mixed reality type device or a VR type device. But I think they've got coming something based around a Google platform, so it looks like that's gone quiet or isn't going to happen either. So yeah, it does seem like a massive scale back, and I think the key people behind HoloLens have gone, haven't they? So I can't see it having a substantial future. But who knows? There maybe there's something come out of it. But I guess I think they're more interested in the services and the back end that go with this now, and maybe allow other people to build the hardware and the.
Yeah, I mean, what I think is important there was the emphasis they also placed on remote assist and the Dynamics 365 guides, which doesn't need a massively complex mixed reality headset. It just needs a camera, a headset with a camera, and maybe a small screen, much like, I guess, like Google Glass, really, to function. So I mean, I kind of read this as being not the end of HoloLens 2, but certainly a handover to, okay, all yours, because this is where we're going now. So, which may not have been the intention, but I think certainly the days of the very impressive sort of mixed reality stuff we were seeing, and perhaps it's just not worked for Microsoft. I guess it made for great. It's one of those things, makes for a great demo, but then doesn't seem to go any further.
Yeah, it's a shame. It's great technology. I love my HoloLens. It still feels like feels like something from the future.
It does indeed, yeah.
Mm.
I mean, that's exactly. I mean, you're right. I mean, some of the demos feel very much like you've stepped into, 10, 15, 20 years for now. It's incredible. Well, it's amazing. It's like it's the future. Welcome to the future. But of course, then you think, well, they were just demos, very, very good demonstrations.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, it's a shame, but that's.
I mean, I remember back in the day when Windows Phone appeared, and there was some demonstration apps and things. You had I think there was a well-known airline had an app they showed off where you could, it rendered the cabin, the aircraft cabin up in a very impressive way. You could choose seats and things that look really impressive. And then the reality was, it's just the booking web page.
Yeah, and a lot of this stuff is. I tried a number of ways to incorporate that technology into my sort of daily workflow, and like as futuristic and fun it was, it's more practical just to use a keyboard and mouse. It just is, and I just wanted to play in virtual reality and stuff like that. But to do anything, I tried simulating multi-screens and things like that, but to do anything really, you just can't beat a good old keyboard and mouse and multiple monitor setup. So yeah, it was great to play in, but I never quite got that practicality of it, which is a shame. It's a shame, but we'll see what comes from it.
I mean, VR itself is great for entertainment and consumers and stuff, and I think there's still great potential, not just in gaming but in education, in being able to put yourself in a space, kind of like, I mean, I always wish that you could kind of have a Google Street View type thing, except it all be animated around you, so you'd feel and get the sights and sounds and smells and things of where you were, which would be cool. But I think the HoloLens concept required so much investment and buy-in on behalf of the companies involved to create these models and things and the interactions. It wasn't straightforward. I mean, it was straightforward to code, but it required an investment for such a niche, that a trading niche where really, as I observed there, most companies will get most things out of it. And I should have really, it's back in 2019 when I tried it out, and I spoke to a few companies, and really for them, listening to them, it was more about the remote assistant, the Dynamics 365. That for them was the business case. The rest of it was it's very neat and clever, but really we just want to be able to see what our operatives are seeing and give them guides in front of them about what to do, instead of having to reach for a tablet or some form of guide. So, but we'll see.
Yeah,
we shall see. And that's Microsoft's latest new shiny. Now they have the AI as their new shiny.
Yeah, that's new shiny thing.
We'll see what happens with that.
At least the AI shiny thing isn't a thing I can buy and put on my virtual shelf of historical items, or my physical actual shelf of historical items where my headset will be. So it's not a thing I have to buy. So that's good.
Yes, is that a Dyson box behind you? A floppy disk on the top shelf?
Yes, it is. Yes.
Hey, well done. Are they three and a halves?
3.5. Yep.
Oh, okay. Not the one true size, the 8-inch then.
Yes, they're not the ones the spinning platter ones. Hang on. The Dyson.
There we go. Look at that.
Yeah, and I've even got operating. These are discs for one of my synthesizers. They're the operating system for my synth. In fact, I've even got a version update disc, and that's why I've got these out, because I've been updating getting all my stuff together as I've been clearing out my loft. So that is all the operating systems ready for that. And the disk drive still works in it, amazingly. A lot of these synths now that have floppy disk drives, like the Core Karma that I've got here, or the Triton, especially the older ones, you can, like the emulators which use the big 5.25-inch floppies, you can take them out, take the physical drive out and put an SD card reader in the slot, because you can get the conversion kits for them, because they were all standard components, so many of them were anyway, so that you can, if you've got an emulator which is a big 80 sampler one, I think, I don't know, say 10 samples on a floppy disk of 5.25, or probably not even 10 samples, 4 or 5 samples, and they take 20 minutes to load. Of course, now it's just an SD card that emulates multiple floppy disks, so that's way more useful. But actually, mine still works. Yeah, so I put that on the shelf. Well spotted there.
I do pay attention. Yes, but
Yeah.
SDD cards. I mean, I think also for for any kind of retro computing now, the amount of solutions I've seen for all kinds of machines, Ataris, Commodores, even my TIs and things, where you can have a adapter that basically have one SD card that contains pretty much everything you're going to ever need.
It's amazing.
Yeah, and it goes through just an ordinary adapter, and it appears as a drive. It's just superb, I think, really.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of these. Look, on the retro synth market, the same as the retro gaming market. I mean, I've got like you said, a BBC Micro or whatever. You can get a USB, well, not USB, but you can get an SD card, micro SD card emulator thing that plugs in, and the BBC thinks it's a disk drive or whatever. Fantastic, yeah.
Speaking of the BBC Micro, I'm a bit concerned. I think is it next couple of days where. Is it the bots on Twitter are changing in some way? I think they've announced the API is changing to not permit bots and things to work in a way they have, because there's a very good BBC Micro bot on Twitter where you basically give it like a whole bunch of BBC basic code and it will then run it for you, which I loved.
No,
I think I'm slightly worried that might be for the chop with the rule change on Twitter, which would be a big concern for me.
Yeah. Oh, that's a shame. Yeah, I think a lot of the quirkiness and funness of Twitter has just drained away over the years from when it was all these different clients and everything else, and you could get little fun things like that. That's gone now. You can't use third-party clients, can you? And things like that. So it's just a boring social media service now. Then you get the fun bits, and there was quite a few of those bots where you could send funny things to, and you would get a good response back. But yeah, I think those days have gone now.
That's a great shame, because as I say, as a retro computing fan, I did enjoy seeing just how much I could squeeze into that 240 characters.
Yeah, that's good. Actually, I've been having some fun with talking retro. I've got some old drum machines, like there's one there and there's the one over there. And a couple of years ago, I bought this last year, I think it was, this Uno drum from IK Multimedia drum machine. And they have a number of sound packs you can download on it. So it's got their own sounds, but there's Roland TR 707, 808, 909s, that kind of thing, and some other ones. But you couldn't install your own. You just could download their packs and install them. But some clever person on GitHub has found a way of disassembled, not quite, reverse engineered their save files so that you could work out how to create your own. So I was tinkering around with this over the weekend and actually finally figured it out. I don't think that many people have actually got it working, but I actually managed to get it to working. So what I managed to do is I recorded the audio from my old drum machine, made them into separate WAV files using this conversion software, which wasn't working, but then there was enough of it to work that I could figure out how to roll my own in Python. So I got that working, and so I actually managed to upload my own sound kit. So so this drum machine now that was effectively presets, I can now just upload my own sounds. So I sampled my TR-505 and made a complete kit from that on here now. So effectively I could get rid of the TR-505 and just have the sounds, but I also downloaded some Lindrum samples in the old 80s machine, which are freely available online. So I got these WAV files and managed to package them into these into this as well. So it uses DFU files. I don't know if you've come across those, but they're effectively a firmware, I think, upgrade for it.
Okay.
And then it packages them into these little firmware files. So they're not that big when you're dealing with audio files. Actually, especially it's a lo-fi drum machine to give you sort of raw file, but they work out like 765k each for these not per sample, for the whole set of 8 or 9 sounds or whatever. So you're not talking gigabytes of memory. So, but yeah, it's quite good actually. So I think including links to the shows, because I figured it out and figured out how to make my own. It is possible for me to write a UI tool for it. So rather than having to do it through scripts, I could create a VB program that allows you to browse for your bass drum, snare drum, whatever, assemble them all, and then do sort of go, and it would then spit out a file for you to upload. So it's possible for me to do that based on the great work that somebody else has already done. I'm not claiming the credit for it, but I figured it out anyway. So I've got that. So, but this is a relatively cheap drum machine compared to some of the sampling machines, which are a few £100. I think this is about 180 quid or something like that. Whereas if you want to, the sort of 400 or 500 quid for the ones that you can upload your own samples. So it is quite a good way of doing it. It's all lo-fi and everything, but that's the charm of it. So, so hopefully I'll try and document it. I'm not claiming credit for all of it. It just took me a while I've tried it on and off for a while. I could never figure it out, and then something sort of twigged when I saw the Python script. And actually, the more I play around with Python, the more I like Python. Really, is just basic, isn't it? It's just a nice way of using basic, I think. Or a better way.
Wash your mouth out. I think if you call Python basic, oh dear.
Compared to C# or something like that, Python just seems, if you know basic, Python is a nice intuitive. It seems a nice language to me.
It is. I mean, I don't disagree. Python is a very well structured language. It's and it's very, very easy to get into. Is it the choice of data scientists? I can't remember. Is it?
Or is that F#?
F#, yes, obviously that's good. I mean, it's Python's been around for a while now.
Yeah, it's not. I mean, I'm joking about basic. It's not basic, but it is got that accessibility, immediacy that you get with basic. I think that's probably what I felt familiar with. And of course, if you want, Python 3.1 is available in the Microsoft Store, so you don't have to do anything clever to get it installed. You can just install it. I mean, I've used different things. I've used Thornley, I think it was, which I used to do MicroPython, but you can just do Python from the command line, and that's how I sort of reversed engineered the program that reversed engineered this other drum machine. I worked out how the Python works. That's what I'm doing wrong, and but anyway, so I've had some good fun with that. So I've got some sort of a new lease of life for my machine now, which is quite good. So we had a few build things this week as well. We could talk about build 25290 for the dev channel. Once again, not the most exciting of builds, I don't think. Although it is available for ARM now.
Yep, we do have the ARM because the issue that meant that the previous builds couldn't be installed has been fixed. Although I have to know more. Although, hey, great news! There's more widgets for insiders to try out.
Oh yes.
Hey. This is basically the preview of they did the preview of Messenger, Spotify, and PhoneLink, and I think there's the widgets of sorry, it was Messenger. They did Messenger the preview last time.
Yeah.
So Spotify and PhoneLink, I think, are rolling out now as previews as pop-up alongside this build as well. So if you're into widgets, knock yourselves out again. I mean. Yeah, great. I mean, it's all good. There's some tweaks being made to start menu. There's other bits and pieces they're fiddling with. It's not much really, but I guess that's kind of good in some ways.
Which should mean things are getting more stable and.
It's just being the dev channel, you'd expect it to be unstable, really. It should be unstable. There should be new exciting stuff happening, but it's not really. It's just all a bit, we've done some tweaks and things here, changed things, typing F in the search box should work again now. Fixed a few issues, not going to say what they are, we just fixed some. So dev channel, it's quite tedious, really.
Yeah, the Spotify widget actually didn't work when the build came out. I only got it to work over the weekend when the new version of Spotify came out. I think I've got a screenshot of that I grabbed. It doesn't do very much. It just takes you to Spotify basically. It is nothing really.
Oh really?
Yeah. I was going to try and show it, but I've run out of memory to start up my VM. So. But that's the screenshot. It's just a couple of playlist things on there, and then when you clicked into it, it just fired up the app when I tried it anyway. So maybe there's more to come on it. Unlike the phone link one, I think that just launched the phone link. Actually, I think they're just launching them. I don't think that there's a huge amount of integration with these at the moment. So, in fact, the demo of the screenshot that Microsoft included on the blog post has a little play button by a playlist. I'm guessing that's what you should be able to do with it. My example, when I took a screenshot, there was no play button. There was just a click button, a link, and it just opened the Spotify. But if you could control it by pausing and playing, maybe that kind of thing, that would be more useful. I'd like to see some system, maybe some more useful system ones like that, or maybe a Twitter one or something like that. If you're heavily into that, or I guess Instagram might be the next thing because you've got Facebook, haven't you? So they need to be able to do some. I think they need to do more than just be entry points to the application, though. They need to be, a bit like live tiles, where depending on which live tile it rotated round, didn't it, and it would take you to a different entry point in the application.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think live tiles were actually pretty good to be honest, and this feels like an evolution of that. But
yeah.
I'm sure Microsoft would prefer us to never mention live tiles again, because that invokes the spectre of Windows Phone, doesn't it? So
yeah, still, it's still probably the best phone operating system I've used.
I would say certainly the best UI, definitely. And I've got Android phones, and although I have to say the latest Android is a bit of a dog's dinner. I'm not quite sure what Google's thinking about there, and I've got iPhones as well, and again, iOS has got progressively more complicated and difficult as it's tried to kind of inherit more functions or I wouldn't say copy, reinvent other functions that are on other devices, but it's losing the simplicity. I wonder maybe Windows Phone would have gone the same, because obviously we have this memory of it as it was 5-6 years ago, and it seemed great then. Maybe it would also have got progressively more complex and nasty as it accrued cruft over time.
Yes, possibly. We'll never know.
We'll never know. No, it's true. I do notice that in this build, ARM is not working quite right. There's problems with facial recognition.
That's been in there for ages. That
it has, yeah, exactly. And as I say, ARM 64 PCs. I've got one here, which I must actually give you a long-term test, because it's the shine has worn off. Let's put it that way.
yeah, I'd like to see that. We did get a dev beta channel builds, but the beta builds are where all the excitement's been. But it seems like the beta for boringness has fought back, and this is just as dull as the dev one.
It is.
There wasn't very much in it. Yeah, beta's where all the fun's been, but there wasn't much in it this week.
Yeah, also very quiet as well.
Yeah, it is a sign of a maturing OS, and there are rumours of people have got screenshots of updated File Explorer with different features in it and things like that. So perhaps there is more stuff to come, but it's not ready yet.
I do hope so, but I do wish also they'd do some focus on quality checking, because obviously alongside the big Microsoft event today, they also, as I understand it, lost Outlook in the cloud for a lot of users. Yeah,
they did this morning, and actually, there was one a couple of weeks ago. I think it was 2 weeks ago. That wasn't just Outlook; it was the whole Azure backend. It was. I think it was like for a morning, really, wasn't it? That this one today perhaps only affected Outlook.com.
Yeah, exactly.
But the one a couple of weeks ago affected everything. You couldn't get into any of the Microsoft services.
What I'm slightly concerned about is this one appears to have been a change that was made and then had to be reversed in a big hurry when it went wrong. You think, well, what kind of quality checking is happening here? Because you would have thought that after the incident that happened a few weeks ago, they'd be very careful now. But it seems that no, they're still able to roll out a change that breaks stuff. So unless things are so complex, they can't be sure what's happening. So they can't fully think about the various paths and things, or understand the impact, or perform an impact assessment on what's going to happen when this change is rolled out. But yes, I think certainly the timing was unfortunate. I mean, maybe if they used OpenAI to say, or Bing to say, how do I make a change to my back end without taking down Outlook for thousands of users? and see what comes out. I'm sure no one's made that joke before.
No. So how do I make my Outlook.com more reliable? Try using Gmail.
Yes. Have you tried Amazon Web Services?
Yeah.
You know what? I bet that's not going to happen. Wouldn't it be interesting to see what if you asked Bing search with OpenAI, how do I deploy a function in the cloud, and see what it comes back with?
Yeah, that's right. They must be putting some bias in there. Or what's the best cloud-based authentication system?
Well, you have the preview open there. Try it out. See what it does.
Yeah, it's not doing very much. I've been trying. I've only got that one query to work before. I'm not in the. I think they're just letting me try bits and pieces out. As if you try anything a bit more complicated, it just goes to the old style search results. So Gary, I know you dropped off there. Did you ask Bing to configure your network?
Yeah, that was the problem. It doesn't come back very well either.
Yeah. I think bit quality control would be a good idea, but these things are so complicated. I don't keeping on top of these network diagrams and all these infrastructure projects like that is horrendous. And I know just from small scale stuff, keep layers of complexity and dependencies is just a nightmare.
Absolutely, and I have to say, I mean, email going down is unfortunate, but I for one would not want to be in charge of on-prem email servers. That's for sure.
No, ask Rackspace.
Oh, too soon.
Well, they got out of the game completely, didn't they? I mean, that was their solution.
Yeah,
it is, and I, I've been managed Outlook or Exchange up to what I think the last one I touched was 2016, was it, or maybe 12? I'm really glad I don't have to do that anymore. I don't mind the odd, they get the odd outage, but at least it's not my problem anyway. It's, there's a problem, but I can't try and fix that. I'm not dealing with those data files, those Outlook Exchange data files. I forgot what they were called now. I used to know they would occasionally corrupt themselves and take themselves offline. Oh, brings back bad memories, that.
They used to be jumped up access database.
Yes.
I can't remember it in the old days.
Yes, exactly. That's exactly what they were. Yeah, the jet. It was a jet engine, wasn't it?
We're going back a long way now.
Gary's done a few projects with the jet database engine,
and he's feeling much better now.
Yeah, I remember the VB4 days. I had an application that used the jet, and every now and again, when you didn't close it, probably would corrupt the data. And there was a little repair tool, wasn't there, for the jet database?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, because I can remember, crikey, back in the last century. We had some software which every night it basically had to do a complete repair and reindex every 24 hours, because you just could not be sure how long these databases were going to stay uncorrupted for. So obviously backups, but then even if it needed it or not, it would be reindexed and fixed.
Yeah, it was only like one line of code.
Those are nice.
It was one line of code, wasn't it, to repair them? I seem to remember it was. There wasn't a huge amount of. I always wondered why doesn't the system just take care of that? And then
it was a very happy day when I think the last time I used Jet or Access in anger was probably last century, because we did move to SQL Server because Oracle was insane money, but SQL Server was relatively inexpensive and did pretty much what we needed. So and was multi-user. Obviously, one had to be aware of what was doing with locking. But I think the first SQL Server I used was 4.21, but Gary goes back further than that.
2, I think. Don't think I ever used 1, but I think I did use 2.
Was that when it was still on? Was that when it was still on OS 2?
Yes.
It was that bought in, wasn't it?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it wasn't until, was it SQL 7 that they did the full-on ground-up rewrite?
Yeah, those were the days.
Yeah. I don't miss managing Exchange servers. Insanely complex for a small enterprise, but the size of the some of the Microsoft stuff. I think they are the best people to manage it for you nowadays. Unfortunately, the complexities.
Definitely. Especially with the patching. I mean, yeah, it's. I'd almost wonder if all these flaws and vulnerabilities that seem to come up every day, and not just in Exchange or operating systems, but in hardware and in appliances. I kind of wonder how much of that is kind of now just driving people to say, you know what, I'm going managed. You manage it for me, and then and I have a big stick to hit you with if it goes wrong.
Yeah, I think so. I think that's a lot of it, and I think from large enterprise, it takes a bit of a shift in mindset. Especially if you've got large teams of Exchange experts. But you can reuse those skills in other ways. But yeah, it makes it's the argument for keeping things like that on-prem are getting harder and harder.
Although that said, I mean, thinking about the consumer experience, if you do start to rely on things in the cloud, you have to hope that cloud's going to stay around.
Yeah, absolutely. I was having a conversation with family at the weekend actually, and saying we were talking on the show the other week about my cine reels. I found some more 8mm slides, and those slides say 1968 on them. I can get them. I can see what they are now. There's no issues with that. I can just look at them, and I can easily blow them up or whatever. But what's the chance in 20 years of getting an image that I took on an iPhone? Is that going to be is it going to be OneDrive? Is that OneDrive going to exist? Is iCloud going to exist? Of the port it to a different format when I haven't paid my money, so I can't move those over? Yeah, I think that's a very challenging issue with modern because services do go away. Like I think like Flickr, that's at one stage I had all my photos in there, but over time I think they went to some quite high subscription models, and I guess some of the stuff's still on there. I think there's a free version of it, but I'm sure at some point that will disappear. And that was bought by Yahoo, wasn't it? And yeah, so it was the sort of darling. Yeah, exactly. The darling of the photography world, wasn't it? Flickr for a while, and no one talks about that anymore. So at some point that might just disappear, and all those photos which you were using your main storage have gone. And yeah, you got to think about importing them to somewhere else. And I don't even know whether Flickr's around anymore. Answers on a postcard. Whatever happened to Flickr? But it still exists.
Yeah.
I wonder if my account still exists. But it's like you said. These services, these cloud services especially, can come and go, and if doesn't matter if you're a large enterprise and Microsoft suddenly switch something off that you're using, it's tough, isn't it? They'll give you a migration policy and say this is how you get your data out. But we're like AltSpace, get your data out and it's gone. That's it. But then with having your own stuff, you've still got other issues. But it's just part of modern systems that you have to get used to things being switched on and off, and especially as we talked about with smart devices, that's even worse. And they get those services. In fact, I found some. I think I said I found some plugs in the smart plugs in my loft, actual physical, the smart sockets, and the service doesn't exist with them. So I don't think I ever got around to installing them. And the service doesn't exist anymore, so they're just dumb plugs now, which I think I'll just probably end up binning. But at some point they were a good service, but that service is gone, and that's it.
Yes, as we've spoken about quite a few times, sort of the smart things thing, and that. Although I haven't said that, the smart things transition does actually seem to be going better than I expected, and I'm still using it, so that's working well. And one little, I'll just briefly, because we're now running out of time. But my latest smart home project in here, I wanted temporarily a thermostat to control the small heater I've got in here, because I don't use heat very often, because as I mentioned before, it's very well insulated in here. But when it gets to about -6 or -7 outside, it needs a bit of warmth. And I couldn't find a decent Zigbee thermostat, not at a reasonable price. And I didn't want to put a full one of these, To-Do or one of those type of heat miser type thermostats in. So I actually created a virtual thermostat on SmartThings. Right. Which is quite clever. So it's got all the automation features that a thermostat's got, and all you do is you link it to a real temperature sensor, and it then will set itself to heat or cool or whatever, and you can then use that to trigger routines. So basically, I've got a routine which says, if the thermostat says heat, then turn on the smart plug for this heater, and then if it says cool, it doesn't say heat, or it says cool, turn off the plug. And I could probably do the same for an air conditioner in the summer, so the cooling could work on that as well. So yeah, it's quite a clever little solution, really, when you can't to do. So yeah, and it works really well. It's and I've even done it so that of an evening, because normally I'm not in here of an evening, so it doesn't need to be heated to sort of temperature to keep me happy, but it can be just keep it from freezing. So it now ties in with the motion sensors as well. So if there's no motion in the building, it drops the heating thermostat down automatically. So it's like in an away mode, effectively.
Yeah.
So all that works pretty well.
Oh, that's good. I mean, the fact that you can do sort of tinker and develop your own stuff, that's where the fun is. That's what I was saying before about the drum machine. Now I've figured out how to update the firmware and make my own firmware for it. It's it's great fun when you can start messing about with stuff like that. But having that openness, that does give it something a bit more useful. And just before we go, so breaking news. Here we go. Here's my media center setup for today.
Hey.
This is my first photo on Flickr, so all my stuff's still there. I remember my password, so yeah, all the stuff. So nothing's been deleted actually, but there's a picture showing how long it is because there's baby toys there, and my sons are 21. So
and some VHS videos too. Look at that.
Yeah, VHS and a little a video sender, which I think is just tucked away at the bottom of the picture there. That's how I got Media Center onto this. So the in fact, I even tagged it. Look at that. The PC itself is elsewhere. Let's see if I can quickly show you that one.
Careful.
Yeah. So there's the sender, the video sender that transmitted it, and there's the PC, the Media Center PC.
Look at that beast. And so, how long ago was that?
20 years? No, 18. Where's it got the date on this?
2005. It says on there.
2005.
Yeah.
There we go.
Oh yeah, 2005. Yeah. So 2005, CPU running at 48 degrees there.
And you still have the case?
No, I'm afraid, long gone. That speaker though was in my loft until Sunday. I think that mouse was probably in the loft till Sunday as well, because I finished. Any loft followers will be pleased to know I've emptied my loft now, so it's all with shelves. So all the things on shelves, and it's ready for boarding. So that's my next project. Yeah. So there you go. So we talk about stuff not going away. Fair play to Flickr. It's still there. First two photos and all the way up to 2015 when I last used it, all still there. So yeah, so it shows you some services do stick around. Right, well, with that, I think we should finish on this week's show. So Gary, where can we find you?
You can still find me on Twitter at Gary Devonway, or on that Mastodon thing as well. Gary Devonway.
Yeah, Richard, we can find you on.
Also on the Mastodon thing as well, yep.
Yeah, and you'll find me on Twitter, and you can always email me for a floppy disk.
Look at that. I don't think I've got any floppy disks left now, so I was just looking around, but I don't think I've got any left here at all.
Anyone who needs firmware for a Karma synthesizer, I've got all them on there for you. So
I used to have a mint unopened box of 5 1/4 inch floppies, which I donated last year, so I think I'm out of floppies now. Disaster.
No. I did find a back box of punch cards the other day.
Well done. Show them to us. Let's see them.
Yeah, this week's show will be available on Punch Card. Gary, you've got to get cracking with it.
Exactly. Who needs AI? I mean, how would you?
Yeah, there's the show title. Who needs AI?
When you got punch cards.
Yes. Yeah. Great. Well, we should be back same place, same time next week. Hopefully, we won't be replaced by AI bots. And so we'll see you next week.